After Adam and Eve were sent out of the Garden of Eden, they began a new life in the world outside. It was a world still fresh and young, full of beauty, but also full of struggle. The ground was harder to work. Life wasn't easy. But even in this new and difficult world, hope remained. Adam and Eve started a family. Their first son was named Cain, and later they had another son named Abel. This is the story of these two brothers, a story about jealousy, choices, and the consequences of letting anger rule the heart. The brothers. Cain grew up to be a farmer, someone who worked the soil and planted crops. He spent his days under the sun, digging, planting, and harvesting the fruits of the earth. Abel, on the other hand, became a shepherd. He took care of sheep, leading them to green pastures and cool waters. He learned how to protect them, how to guide them, and how to offer the best of his flock to God. Both brothers knew about God. They had heard from their parents about the Garden of Eden, how God had created everything good and beautiful, and how sin entered the world because of disobedience. So, both Cain and Abel wanted to honor God in their own ways. The offerings. One day, both brothers decided to bring an offering to the Lord. Cain brought some of the fruits and vegetables he had grown from the ground, grains, crops, and plants. Abel brought something different, the firstborn of his flock, the best portions of the animals he had raised. The Bible tells us that God looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but he did not look with favor on Cain and his offering. We're not told exactly why, but many believe that Abel's gift came from a sincere heart, offered in faith and gratitude, while Cain's was given without true devotion. Abel gave his best. Cain just gave something. When God accepted Abel's offering and not his, Cain became very angry. His face turned dark with jealousy. Instead of asking God what went wrong or how he could do better, Cain let the anger grow inside him like a fire. God speaks to Cain. God saw Cain's anger and came to speak with him directly. "Why are you angry?" God asked. "Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." It was a warning, a loving one. God was telling Cain, you still have a choice. Anger doesn't have to control you. You can turn back. You can do what's right. But Cain didn't listen. Instead of letting go of his jealousy, he held on to it. He began to think about Abel more and more, not as his brother, but as a rival. And slowly, the anger hardened into hatred. The tragedy in the field. One day, Cain said to Abel, "Let's go out to the field." Abel, trusting his brother, followed him. They walked out to the open land, the fields that Cain had worked so often. The sky was quiet. The wind was still. But inside Cain's heart, there was a storm. And then, in a terrible moment of rage, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. The first murder in human history. The first blood shed, not by an enemy, but by family. Cain's jealousy had turned into a tragedy that could never be undone. God confronts Cain. Later, God came to Cain and asked, "Where is your brother Abel?" Cain replied coldly, "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" But God already knew. He said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." God's voice was filled with sorrow. The earth itself, the very ground that Cain had worked, was now stained with his brother's blood. Then God said, "Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the soil, it will no longer yield crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." Cain cried out, "My punishment is too much to bear. Anyone who finds me will kill me." But God, even in his justice, showed mercy. He said, "Not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over." And the Lord placed a mark on Cain, a sign of protection, so that no one would harm him as he wandered. The aftermath. So Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. He started a family, built a city, and continued his life. But he could never escape the memory of what he had done. The mark on him was not only a sign of protection, but also a reminder, a symbol of the cost of sin, anger, and jealousy. Meanwhile, Adam and Eve mourned deeply. They had lost one son to death and another to exile. But in time, they had another son named Seth. Through Seth's family line, humanity would continue, and eventually, generations later, Jesus Christ would be born. Lessons and reflection. The story of Cain and Abel is more than a tale of 2 brothers. It's a mirror, showing what happens when anger and pride are left unchecked. God gave Cain a chance to do what was right, just as he gives us chances every day. We all feel jealousy, frustration, or anger sometimes. But this story reminds us, we must master our emotions, or they will master us. And it also reminds us of something greater, that even when we fall, even when we sin, God's mercy still reaches out to us. Cain and Abel, a story of warning, sorrow, and grace. A story that began in the earliest days of humanity, but still speaks powerfully to our hearts today.